Your Honor, before this court finalizes anything, I need 30 seconds. That's all I'm asking. 30 seconds and one folder. The judge looked at me over his reading glasses. My wife's attorney, a polished woman named Christine Farrell, was already shaking her head. Your Honor, we've been through months of negotiation. Mr. Hartwell agreed to these terms. My client has been more than reasonable. Reasonable? That word almost made me laugh. My wife was about to walk out of this courthouse with our home of 32 years, my pension, half my 401k, both vehicles, and $3,800 a month in spousal support because she claimed she couldn't work due to a chronic back injury that left her barely able to function. Reasonable meant I would spend my retirement years in a studio apartment eating canned soup while she lived in the house I had built with my own hands. I'm 63 years old. I spent 38 years as a structural engineer for the county of Maricopa, Arizona. I built bridges. I inspected buildings after earthquakes. I made sure the structures people lived and worked in wouldn't collapse on them. And somehow, I never noticed that my own marriage was built on a foundation of sand. Mr. Hartwell, Judge Declan Whitmore said, his voice carrying the tired patience of a man who had seen too many divorces. You signed the preliminary agreement. This hearing is procedural. I understand, Your Honor. But I have evidence that the terms of this agreement were based on fraudulent claims. Evidence I received 4 days ago. My wife was sitting 12 feet away from me. I could feel her staring. For 34 years of marriage, I had known every expression on that face. The way she smiled when she was genuinely happy, which I now realized I hadn't seen directed at me in over a decade. The way she frowned when she was concentrating. The way her left eye twitched, just barely, when she was lying. It was twitching now. What kind of evidence? The judge asked. I held up a manila folder, the kind you buy in a 10-pack at the office supply store. Nothing special about it. Everything special inside it. Photographic and financial evidence that my wife has been operating a concealed business for the past 7 years, that her claimed disability is fraudulent, and that she has hidden approximately $620,000 in assets from this court. The courtroom didn't erupt. It's not like in the movies. Instead, there was this dense, pressing silence, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Christine Farrell's pen stopped moving. My own lawyer, a semi-retired guy named Boyd Nakamura, who I was paying a reduced rate because he owed me a favor from 20 years ago, sat up straighter in his chair. He didn't know about the folder either. Nobody did. My wife spoke first. That's a lie. Her voice was steady, controlled. The voice she used when she was most dangerous. Crawford doesn't know what he's talking about. He's been bitter since I filed. Judge Whitmore raised his hand. Mrs. Hartwell, you'll have your opportunity to respond. He looked at me. Mr. Hartwell, approach the bench. I walked forward on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Every step was a step away from the man I had been for 34 years, the trusting husband, the reliable provider, the fool, and toward whoever I was about to become. 5 days earlier, I was sitting in a Denny's off Route 60, outside of Mesa. It was 7 inches the morning. The restaurant smelled like burned coffee and pancake batter. I was meeting a man named Gil Ontiveros, a private investigator my old college roommate had recommended after I told him about the divorce over beers one night. Gil was 58, barrel-chested, with a silver crew cut and the calm demeanor of someone who had spent 20 years in Army intelligence before going private. He sat across from me with a folder and a glass of orange juice and said the words that rearranged my entire understanding of reality. Your wife isn't disabled, Mr. Hartwell. Not even close. I had suspected. On some level, I think I had known for years. But hearing it confirmed was different from suspecting it. Suspecting is a dull ache. Confirmation is a knife. Show me. He opened the folder. Photographs first. My wife, the woman who told the court she could barely walk to the mailbox, who used a cane at every legal proceeding, who had a doctor's note saying she suffered from degenerative disc disease so severe she could never work again. My wife carrying boxes out of a storage unit. My wife climbing a ladder to hang a sign. My wife doing yoga in a park, full back bend. Not a trace of pain on her face. When were these taken? Over the past 3 months. But it gets worse. It always gets worse. That's what I was learning. The truth doesn't come in one clean hit. It comes in waves, each one bigger than the last. Gil pulled out a stack of printed documents. Bank statements, business filings, tax records. Your wife has been running an online business for the past 7 years. Home decor and furniture restoration. She buys pieces at estate sales, refinishes them, sells them online for 3 to 5 times what she paid. She operates under a company registered to her sister, Patricia Bowen. The business address is Patricia's house. But all the work is done by your wife. I stared at the numbers. Revenue last year alone was $189,000. Net profit after expenses, roughly $112,000. For context, my pension is $4,100 a month. She was out-earning me while claiming she was too disabled to hold a job. 7 years? I said. She's been doing this for 7 years? That I can verify. Could be longer. I did the math in my head. 7 years of hidden income. Hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing into accounts I never knew existed while I paid for the house, the groceries, the insurance, the car payments, everything. While she told me she was too sick to work, too tired to do anything, while I rubbed her back and brought her heating pads and drove her to doctor's appointments. There's one more thing, Gil said. He hesitated, which told me it was going to be bad because Gil Ontiveros was not a man who hesitated. The doctor who wrote her disability reports, Dr. Stefan Lazaridis. I knew the name. I had sat in that man's waiting room dozens of times while my wife went in for her appointments. I had shaken his hand, thanked him for taking care of her. He's been writing fraudulent medical reports for your wife for the past 5 years. In exchange, she's been managing his rental properties off the books. 6 units in Tempe. She handles the tenants, collects the rent, arranges repairs, takes a 15% cut. So her doctor is in on it. Her doctor is her business partner. I sat there, looking at the photographs. My wife doing yoga. My wife lifting furniture. My wife living an entire secret life while I carried the weight of both of ours. How much has she hidden total? Gil pulled out one more sheet. A summary he'd put together. Between the business accounts, the property management income, and 3 savings accounts opened under Patricia's Social Security number but funded entirely by your wife, we're looking at approximately $620,000. $620,000. Hidden from me. Hidden from the court. Hidden from the IRS, for all I knew. And she was asking for $3,800 a month in spousal support because she was too disabled to support herself. What do I do with this? That's your call, Mr. Hartwell. You can bring it to your attorney, let him file motions, go through proper channels. That'll take months. Or you can walk into that courtroom on Thursday with this folder and end it yourself. I thought about it. Proper channels meant delays, meant her having time to move money, destroy evidence, coach her sister and her doctor on what to say. It meant more months of paying for a household I no longer lived in while she built her hidden empire. Thursday it is. Let me tell you about the 34 years that led to that Denny's booth. My name is Crawford Hartwell. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona, the son of a high school math teacher and a woman who worked the front desk at the same school for 30 years. My parents had the kind of marriage I thought was normal, quiet, steady, honest. They never raised their voices. They never lied to each other, at least not that I ever saw. They taught me that a man's word was the most important thing he owned. I met my wife in 1989 at a New Year's Eve party in Phoenix. She was 25, I was 29. She was wearing a red dress and laughing at something her friend had said, and when she turned and looked at me, I felt like the ground shifted beneath my feet. We talked until midnight, kissed at the countdown, were engaged by June. We got married in October of 1,990 inches, her parents' backyard in Scottsdale. Small wedding, 60 guests. Her father cried during the ceremony. I promised to love her, protect her, provide for her. I meant every word. We tried for children. Couldn't have them. After 3 years of fertility treatments and 2 miscarriages, We accepted that it wasn't going to happen for us. It was the deepest grief of my life. But we had each other. That was supposed to be enough. For years it was. We built a life. I worked my way up at the county. She worked as an office manager at a real estate firm. We bought our house in Gilbert in 2001, a 3-bedroom ranch with a big backyard where we hosted barbecues every 4th of July. We had friends, hobbies, routines, the architecture of a good life. I don't know exactly when things started to change. It wasn't one moment. It was a gradual erosion, like water wearing down stone. She started complaining about her back around 2012. Doctor visits became frequent. She cut back her hours at work, then quit entirely in 2015. By 2017, she had a formal disability designation from Dr. Lazaridis. I didn't question it. Why would I? She was my wife. She said she was in pain. I believed her. I became the sole provider. Took on overtime. Delayed my retirement. I was 56 and should have been planning my exit from working life, but instead, I was working harder than ever because my wife couldn't contribute, or so I thought. Looking back, the signs were there. She was always busy for someone who supposedly couldn't do anything. Always on her phone. Always going to her sister Patricia's house. Always having meetings she described vaguely as appointments. I assumed it was medical stuff. Doctor visits, physical therapy. I didn't pry because I trusted her. Trust. The most expensive thing I ever gave away for free. In 2022, she sat me down after dinner and told me she wanted a divorce. I was 61 years old. We had been married for 32 years. I'm not fulfilled, Crawford. I need something different. I suggested counseling. She said it was too late. I asked if there was someone else. She said no. That, at least, appears to have been true. Gil found no evidence of an affair. She wasn't leaving me for another man. She was leaving me for money. My money, specifically, plus the $620,000 she had squirreled away. She hired Christine Farrell, a divorce attorney known for getting favorable outcomes for her clients, which is a polite way of saying she knew how to drain a man dry. The initial demands were staggering. The house, both cars, 60% of my retirement accounts, and permanent spousal support based on her disability. My lawyer, Boyd, told me to fight. But I was tired. 61 years old, a broken marriage, no children to anchor me. I agreed to most of it just to make it stop. That's when my college roommate, Dave Petrosian, intervened. We were having beers at a sports bar in Chandler, and he listened to me describe the settlement terms. His face went through several colors. Crawford, that's insane. She's taking everything. She's disabled, Dave. She can't work. Dave gave me a look, the kind of look that contains an entire unspoken conversation. When's the last time you actually watched her? Not as her husband. As an observer. I didn't have an answer. Call this guy. He slid a business card across the table. Gil Ontiveros. He's the best PI in the valley. Just have him take a look. If she's on the level, you lose a few $1,000s. If she's not, you save everything. That call cost me $8,500. It saved me roughly $1 million. Back in the courtroom, Judge Whitmore had my folder open in front of him. He was reading slowly, methodically, the way I imagine he read every piece of evidence in his career. But his eyebrows were climbing higher with each page. Christine Farrell was objecting. Your Honor, this is ambush litigation. My client hasn't had time to review these documents. Your client has had 7 years to disclose these assets, Counselor. Judge Whitmore didn't look up. He turned another page. Another photograph. My wife on a ladder. My wife carrying a dresser. My wife doing things she told this court she physically could not do. He finally looked up. Mrs. Hartwell, is this you in these photographs? She didn't answer immediately. I watched her calculate. The left eye was twitching rapidly now. Those photographs are taken out of context. I have good days and bad days. My doctor can confirm. Your doctor? Judge Whitmore flipped to another section of the folder. Would that be doctor? Stefan Lazaridis? The same physician who appears to be your business partner in a property management arrangement involving 6 rental units in Tempe? Christine Farrell's face lost its color. She leaned over to whisper to my wife. My wife pushed her away. That's not what it looks like. What does it look like, Mrs. Hartwell? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you represented to this court that you suffer from a debilitating disability. You provided medical documentation supporting that claim. You used that claim to seek permanent spousal support from your husband. And now I'm looking at evidence that you've been running a profitable business, managing commercial real estate, and performing physical activities entirely inconsistent with your claimed disability, all while hiding over $500,000 in assets. The silence lasted 10 seconds. Felt like 10 minutes. Mrs. Hartwell, the judge continued, I'm going to ask you directly. Have you misrepresented your physical condition to this court? I watched her face. 34 years of marriage. 34 years of reading that face across dinner tables and during arguments and in quiet moments before sleep. I knew exactly when the mask fell. It happened gradually. The defiant set of her jaw softened first, then her shoulders dropped. Then her eyes, those eyes that had looked at me on New Year's Eve, 1989, with what I thought was love, went flat. I have a business. Her voice was barely audible. And my condition is not as severe as the medical reports indicate. Not as severe, Judge Whitmore repeated. Is that your way of saying you've been committing fraud on this court, Mrs. Hartwell? Christine Farrell stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess to confer with my client. Sit down, counselor. We're past that point. Mrs. Hartwell, I'll ask again. Have you committed fraud? Another silence. Shorter this time. She knew it was over. I could see it in the way her body language collapsed, like a building whose foundation had finally given way. I'd seen buildings do that in my career. It's always the foundation that goes first. Yes. Boyd Nakamura, next to me, exhaled audibly. Christine Farrell put her head in her hands. And my wife, the woman I had loved and trusted and supported for 34 years, the woman I had believed when she said her back hurt, when she said she needed me, when she said she was fulfilled by our life together, sat there in the wreckage of her own deception looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Can you describe the nature and extent of your hidden assets? The judge asked. She did, slowly, painfully. The business, the accounts under Patricia's name, the arrangement with Dr. Lazaridis, the property management income, all of it coming out like water through a cracked dam. $620,000. The judge confirmed when she finished. Approximately, she whispered. Judge Whitmore removed his glasses, cleaned them with his tie, and put them back on. A deliberate pause. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm setting aside the entire proposed settlement. I'm referring this matter to the county attorney's office for investigation into potential fraud upon the court, insurance fraud, and tax evasion. I'm also issuing an immediate freeze on all accounts connected to you, your sister Patricia Bowen, and Dr. Stefan Lazaridis, pending further investigation. He looked at me. Mr. Hartwell, I apologize on behalf of this court that these proceedings nearly resulted in what would have been a profoundly unjust outcome. I nodded, didn't trust my voice. This matter is continued to a date to be set. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat in the courthouse lobby for 20 minutes afterward. Boyd came and sat next to me, said nothing for a while. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. You should have told me, Crawford. I know. I would have helped. I know that too. But I needed to be sure. And I needed it to land exactly right. No leaks, no warnings, no chance for her to get ahead of it. He nodded. He understood. My phone buzzed. A text from my wife. 4 words. How could you do this? I stared at that message for a long time. How could I do this? Not how could she hide $620,000. Not how could she fake a disability. Not how could she spend 7 years lying to me and to the court. How could I expose her? I typed back. The same way you could do what you did to me. Then I deleted it. Typed instead. We should talk. Not today. When you're ready. She never responded. The weeks that followed were a strange kind of empty. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Mesa that I'd rented when she kicked me out of the house. Not kicked exactly, more like made it clear that my presence was no longer welcome. The apartment was small but quiet. After 34 years of marriage, quiet was either peaceful or terrifying, depending on the time of day. The investigation moved fast. Patricia Bowen, my sister-in-law, was subpoenaed. She cooperated immediately. Turned over every record, every bank statement, every email. Threw my wife under the bus so fast you could hear the tires squeal. In her deposition, she said my wife had threatened to cut her out of the business if she didn't let her use her name and social security number for the accounts. Whether that was true or just self-preservation, I couldn't tell. Dr. Lazaridis lost his medical license. The state medical board moved on him within weeks of the referral. Turned out my wife wasn't his only patient with a suspiciously generous disability assessment. There were 11 others, 11 people faking conditions, collecting benefits, while Lazaridis collected under-the-table payments for his cooperation. My wife was charged with fraud upon the court, fraudulent concealment of assets, and tax evasion. The IRS got involved when they discovered 7 years of unreported income. That's the thing about hidden money. The tax man always finds it eventually. She took a plea deal. 2 years probation, $145,000 in restitution to the IRS, 200 hours of community service, and a felony on her record. She called me the night before her sentencing. "I need you to know that I loved you." She was crying. "Whatever you think of me now, I loved you in the beginning." What happened to the beginning? It just got away from me. The business started small. A few pieces of furniture here and there. Then it grew, and I didn't know how to tell you. And the disability thing, Lazaridis suggested it. He said it would protect me financially in case you ever found out about the business. One lie led to another, and then I was in too deep to stop. You could have told me the truth at any point in 7 years. I was afraid you'd leave, so instead you left me, and tried to take everything on the way out. She didn't have an answer for that. The divorce was finalized 4 months after the courthouse revelation. The terms were drastically different from what she had originally demanded. The house was sold. She got nothing from it after the liens and restitution payments. My retirement accounts stayed intact. No spousal support. The court determined that a woman who had been earning 6 figures secretly didn't need her ex-husband's pension to survive. I used my share of the house sale to put a down payment on a small 2-bedroom place in Gilbert, different neighborhood than before. New streets, new landmarks, new beginning. I adopted a dog from the county shelter, a 6-year-old lab mix named Walter who had been returned twice. We understood each other, Walter and I. We both knew what it was like to be discarded and to start over. Dave Petrosian helped me move in, brought beer and pizza and didn't ask too many questions. At one point, he stood in my empty living room and said, "Not bad for a guy who almost lost everything." I didn't almost lose everything. I almost gave it away. There's a difference. He thought about that. Yeah, I guess there is. A year has passed since that day in the courtroom. I turned 64 last month, still working at the county, though I'm planning to retire next spring. Finally, the retirement I should have started 3 years ago. The one my wife's deception delayed. I'm doing okay. Not great, not terrible. Okay. Some mornings I wake up and the anger is still there, sharp and hot, and I have to breathe through it. Other mornings I wake up and Walter is snoring at the foot of the bed and the sun is coming through the window and the world seems manageable. My wife, my ex-wife, is working at a retail store now. The furniture business was shut down as part of the plea deal. Patricia won't speak to her. Dr. Lazaridis moved out of state. The support system she had built through lies collapsed when the lies did. She sends me emails sometimes. Long, rambling messages about how sorry she is, how she wishes she could take it all back. How the person she became isn't the person she really is. I read them, I don't respond. Not out of cruelty. I just don't have anything left to say. People ask me if I'm bitter. I tell them the truth. I was bitter for about 6 months. Bitter enough that it was affecting my health, my sleep, my ability to function. My doctor told me my blood pressure was dangerously high. My friend Dave told me I was becoming someone I wouldn't recognize. So I made a choice. The same way I made a choice in that courtroom, I chose to let it go. Not to forgive, exactly. I don't think I'll ever fully forgive, but to release the grip that the anger had on me, to stop carrying her lies around like they were my burden. The hardest part, and I mean this honestly, wasn't the money. It wasn't the hidden business or the fake disability or even the $620,000. The hardest part was realizing that the person I trusted most in the world had looked me in the eyes every single day for 7 years and lied. Had watched me work overtime to support us while she was building her own secret fortune. Had accepted my sympathy for her pain while performing yoga in a park. That betrayal of trust. That's what keeps me up at night sometimes. Not the financial fraud, the intimate fraud. The daily, casual, domestic fraud of pretending to be someone she wasn't. Last Thanksgiving, I cooked dinner for myself and Walter. Turkey breast, mashed potatoes, the whole spread, sized down for one person and a dog who would eat anything. I set the table with real plates, lit a candle, put on some music, and I sat there eating Thanksgiving dinner alone for the first time in 34 years. It should have been the saddest moment of my life. And maybe it was, for about 5 minutes. But then Walter put his head on my lap and looked up at me with those ridiculous brown eyes, and I realized something. This meal was honest. This table, this apartment, this life, it was all real. No one at this table was pretending to be something they weren't. No one was hiding anything. The food was warm, the dog was loyal, and everything I had earned and kept through the truth. That's worth more than a 3-2-year marriage built on deception. It's worth more than a house full of secrets. It's worth more than $620,000 hidden in someone else's name. I got a letter from my ex-wife's sister, Patricia, about 2 months ago. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. It was an apology. 3 pages, handwritten. She said she was sorry for her role in the deception. Sorry for letting her sister use her name and her social security number. Sorry for not telling me the truth when she had the chance. She said she had always liked me, always thought I deserved better, but family loyalty had kept her quiet. At the bottom of the letter, she wrote something that stuck with me. She wrote, "You were the only honest person in all of our lives, and we punished you for it." I kept the letter. Put it in a drawer. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it's nice to know that someone, even someone complicit in the whole mess, recognized what they had done. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, here's what I want to tell you. First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong in your marriage, in your finances, in the story your spouse is telling you, pay attention. I ignored my instincts for years because I didn't want to believe the person I loved was capable of this. Ignoring your gut doesn't make the problem go away. It just gives the problem time to grow. Second, protect yourself. I don't care how much you love someone. Have a basic understanding of your household finances. Know what accounts exist. Know what your spouse does all day. This isn't suspicion. It's survival. I spent 7 years not knowing my wife was running a business and hiding over $500,000. That level of ignorance almost cost me my entire retirement. Third, the truth is always worth it. Standing in that courtroom with that folder was the scariest thing I've ever done. Scarier than any earthquake-damaged building I ever inspected. But it was the right thing to do. Living a lie is not living. It's just existing in someone else's fiction. And finally, you can survive this. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know the betrayal feels like it might actually kill you. It won't. You're tougher than you think. I'm 64 years old. I lost a 3-4-year marriage. I discovered that almost everything I believed about my life was wrong. And I'm still here. Still standing. Still building. My ex-wife tried to take everything I had, my savings, my pension, my home, my dignity. She almost succeeded. Would have succeeded if Dave hadn't slid that business card across a bar table, if Gil hadn't done his job, if I hadn't found the courage to walk into that courtroom with the truth. But she didn't succeed. And what I have now, this small, honest life, this quiet apartment, this ridiculous dog, this peace, she can never touch it, because it's built on something she could never fake. The truth. If you stayed until the end, drop a like. Subscribe if you want more stories from people who refused to be taken advantage of. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's being lied to and knows it, but is too afraid to act. The truth is worth the fear. I promise you that. I'll see you in the next one.